Hey everybody, it's your boy VG Time back again. This time we have a tournament report for my Store Showdown for Star Wars Unlimited. My first store event like that, and it was very fun. We had 5 rounds to define undefeated, and then it went by standings from that point on. This is a format that I'm familiar with as a Dragon Ball player because that's how most of our online regionals are. And I think if you play any of these Bandai card games, they're sort of like that. This is mainly useful for us because we start our games at 7 o'clock at night. So the idea of then going to a top cut and playing like another three rounds, getting out like 3 o'clock in the morning, wasn't exactly something that we were that interested in, especially since some of us are traveling from over an hour to get to the shop and whatnot. So, some people who were not familiar with the format asked me some questions about it. One of the questions that came up, which was a very good question, mind you, was what about if you just lose the first round and you know you can't win the tournament? What are you supposed to do? And I tell them, you lock in, you focus, you go for top cut. And of course, right after I say that, I lose round one. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. The guy who I lost round one to is one of the better players in the store. We never actually ever get to play each other. It's kind of crazy because we're either co-tied for undefeated or something like that, and we don't really play a fourth round in our locals. So it's what it is. But we played against each other. He was on sure aggression. Cool deck. You can tell he played with it a lot. He actually ended up, I believe, in second place at the event because of how well he played. He went 4-1. How was that matchup? That matchup was actually on me. That was on me. 100% on me. Not that he didn't play well, but it was 100% on me. Game one, I rolled him. Like, it was so free, it wasn't even funny. And he got real, scared about it because he was like, damn, I'm about to lose round one. But then I broke a cardinal rule of card gaming, which is I oversided. So if you're not familiar with that, we get a 10 card side deck, and what happens is you have the ability to bring in those cards between games. In general, you only want to bring in 3 to 5 cards max in most card games. In Star Wars, I think that answer is 2 to 3 cards max. Because after that, your deck starts to get a little wonky. I boarded 6 cards trying to cover this wide base of things, and that was the problem. Because I was trying to cover everything, I ended up making my deck strictly worse. Once that occurred, and my deck was missing searches and I was just drawing dead, I did not make the adjustments to move some things back in and reside between 2 and 3, which is, again, something that I always preach is to readjust your side for going first versus going second and things like that. So basically, yeah, I just did a bad thing, ended up making my deck worse and lost. Round two, I played against Yellow Sabine. The person who won the event played Yellow Sabine, but it wasn't this person, but I believe they're teammates. I swept that game. I played against Mono Yellow Boba Fett, swept that game. Went against Green Sabine. Now, he wasn't doing anything different than the Yellow Sabine player was doing or anything like that. It's just that sometimes they just have all the cards, and sometimes you don't have the cards to stop it. And so I lost the first game to 3 copies of For a Cause, and then I won the second game handily. And then the third game came up. I saw 0 ramp, 0 removal. Still made it to turn 8 and lost to For a Cause to believe it. So it's what it is. And then so I said, all right, in order for me to make top 8, I need to lock in and get this last game to have a hope that on my tiebreakers, I will be able to make it into top 8. As I'm talking about it, one of the people I played earlier was like, I don't think I want to play this last round. So I had to try my best to talk them into playing that last round. If you don't know how tiebreakers work, it's based upon the opponent's match win percentage on top of your wins. And if someone drops for a tournament, it counts their match wins percentage at like a 0. So it messes up all your averages and it makes it so that you have a much worse chance of topping. So the person agreed to play one more round because, they was like, okay, I'll play this last round. And with that and me clutching that game against Leia Aggression, I was able to sneak in at exactly 8th place and get my copy of Mace Windu. So next we're going to go over the current version of the Palpatine Yellow deck. It'll be pretty brief because we already had a full detailed deck profile on the channel. So if you want to see that, you kind of look at that. But I did make some significant changes. And so I just want to make sure you guys see that. So again, Palpatine, Chopper base. We start off with our anti-aggro pieces, which is basically Yularen and Royal Guard. But we added a new piece to that, and it has helped me out significantly, which is Admiral Piet. Not sure how many people have experimented with this card, but this card is actually kind of gas. Particularly on villainy size big decks, which is what it's meant for. But it's also good for 2 other reasons. First of all, what he does is he makes it so that cards that cost 6 or greater, units that cost 6 or greater that you play, have ambush. This is great for making cards that would normally just come into play and you take up your whole turn to play to actually get some value off of it. Ambush is a very strong mechanic and it's great removal for decks such as this. The other reason why he's really, really good is because he's a 1/4. So there's not many things in the game that could take out a 1/4 on the first turn, which means that even if you go off initiative, you could play this, your opponent could claim, and then most likely, unless they're going to do like the Rebel guy that makes them swing with +2 or the Stormtrooper guy that makes them swing with +2, unless they're going to waste a card like that onto him, he's going to probably just stay out there and they're going to go for your base. At which case, you have the option of dropping this, and now you locked up the ground for at least a turn or 2. Of course, we're playing green, so we got our ramp. We played 3 copies of Super Laser Tech and 3 copies of Resupply. That should go without saying. And then we have our vehicle engine. So we have 3 copies of Patrolling V-Wing. We have 2 copies of Frontline Shuttle, which to me is still a great card, but not 3 of like I was thinking. I experimented with 3 of for like a hot 2 games and realized that that was not the wave. Then we have Escort Skiff, which is actually also part of our anti-aggro base because this guy has ambush. So usually, once you establish Yularen or Piet plus a guard, they usually don't really want to swing into this, or they'll swing into this and try to trade into it using one of those Fleet Lieutenant type cards. And then after that, you play this guy, you clear off whatever else they got going on. Usually he lives because they're most likely a 3 power threat. And now they have to just play something that does nothing. And then you get to clear that the following turn because you're going to claim. If we get our most powerful opening, and we have this in our hand, Strafing Gunship is amazing against aggro. And it's actually solid against everything else. So 3-4 for 4 is pretty solid. And the fact is able to ping off anything with 2 power without taking anything back on the ground, or is able to deal with, stuff that would normally be a problem. Like, for instance, this versus Sabine Leader is not bad, especially if you were able to establish this. You could go, if they deploy the Sabine, you're going to hit it for 3. And now, whatever you have on the ground, you're going to be able to clean her up with. Okay, next we have ATST. This card I was kind of down on, but I didn't want to get rid of it from the deck. That's the main thing that brought me to Admiral Piet. I was like, well, if this thing has ambush, now it becomes way better. And then Piet also happens to trigger the Royal Guard and all that stuff. Now he's significantly better if I, have this card If not, if I don't have them, I resource them. It's not a big deal, but having something to come down for 6, clear off whatever they have. Like for instance, I held on to one of these against the Leia player. They deployed their leader, and I was just like, ATST, kill it. And they didn't see that coming because it was like a really niche play. Another card that got better is Gladiator Star Destroyer. Gladiator Star Destroyer was already good. You know, you play it out there, you give it Self or something else, Sentinel, and then it kind of locks down that area. But with Piet, now it could swing into something, clear it, and then you could maybe get something on the ground, Sentinel, when you had to before think about ground or space. And yeah, just a great card. Another card that benefits immensely from it, from Admiral Piet, is Reinforcement Walker. So I was already doing shenanigans with Walker with sneak attack, and that's very strong. But the problem with Walker's sneak attack is that Walker goes away at the end of the turn. With Piet, you could play the Walker, you will get the on play trigger, then because it ambushes and it swings, you get the on attack trigger. So you'll still be able to heal the 6. And then again with Frontline Shuttle, you get the possibly heal for 9, or if you're in a more grindier matchup, you get all those cards to your hand. Also, Piet turns Reinforcement Walker into removal, which is again great. 2 copies of Devastator, like we had before. Again, another card that benefits from Piet. Devastator comes down, clears the threat, and if they have something small and dinky in space, like I beat someone because they had out a Green Squadron A-Wing, and they thought it was safe. I played this out. They thought I was going to burn it, but I was like, no, I'm burning that guy on the ground, and Piet gives his ambush, run over it for 7, and win the game. So it was very powerful. And then, of course, 3 copies of Preparing to Take Off to tie together the whole vehicle engine. Next up, we have 2 copies. We're down from the 3. We're down to 2 copies of Bounty Hunter Crew. Not that the card is bad by any means. It's not. It's just that I don't really want to see it until really late. I don't really want to see it that early. So sometimes when I was running at 3, I would see it like early, and then it was nothing for me to really pick up. But, you know, still a great card. Continue with events. 3 copies of Sneak Attack, one of the most important events in the deck. It got a little less important with Piet being included, but still it gives you your best first turn play, which is Sneak Attack into Super Laser Attack. But you got to be careful with that play. You have to have something to follow it up with because it is a neg to your hand. So keep that in mind. 2 copies of Barrage because, you need a removal. It's down to 2 copies because I had to remove it for another card, which I will show you in a minute. MVP of the night, 2 copies of Waylay. So I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but a lot of people, I guess, are not used to their cards being hard answered. And, they'll do stuff like tap out for a big play, and then you just waylay it back to your hand, you time walk them, right? And sometimes these big plays they're making don't have any on-play effects, so that you could at least get value from it as a player. Like, for instance, if I play a Reinforcement Walker with Ambush and I get to heal 6, if you waylay it, I don't care. But, cats were going like Green Squadron A-Wing, and I was like having out like a Yularen or Piet, and then they'll next turn have initiative and be like, Wing Leader, put 2 counters on it. Now I have an option. I could either play one of these, or I could just waylay the Green Squadron A-Wing and make them feel bad. And that's what I was doing like all day, as well as various other cards. Then we have 2 copies of No Good to Be Dead. That kind of goes without saying. Great card. And then the card that I took out the 1 copy of Barrage for is 1 copy of Restock. I was kind of expecting Blue to show up at this event. Yeah, so I was kind of hoping that Restock would be beneficial, and I was suspecting to see Blue. There was no blue. It was a room full of aggro and mid range. I was one of those 2 or 3 slow decks there. Um, so that's what it is. But that wasn't necessarily a bad idea to run at main because if I did run into it, I didn't want to be caught out. Also, running a car like this main allows you to have an easy car to side out. Because one of the things that people tell me is that, man, I have no idea what I'm going to side out my deck. Well, I know what I'm siding out my deck because not only because I played it long enough, but two, I have cards in here that are meant to be sided out of the deck, right? So that's what we were doing. Next, we're going to look at the side deck. So next, here with the side deck. This side deck is very interesting. It's meant to cover a lot of different ground, and if I knew the room was going to be full of just aggro, I would have probably mixed it a little bit differently. But I think I got all the bases covered, and I used uh, all but like 3 cards in this side deck for matchups. So first card we're going to talk about is Relentless. Relentless was really meant for the blue matchups, but Relentless also came in against some of the bigger red decks. So for instance, there was a guy who was playing Vader, another guy was playing whatever. But I bought this in against Leia after game 1 because I realized he was going up big and he was playing U-Wing. And I know I could get this down before he had a chance to play U-Wing. And that meant that if I cleared his board, he had no way of refilling the board very easily. And that was pretty solid. Same thing here. We bring in Traitorous. Traitorous is another way that we punish people for Voltroning their guys, especially their little guys. We have a copy of Barrage. We bring that in against the aggro matchups just to give ourselves more board clear. Similar with Traitorous. Change of Heart did not come in the entire tournament. There was one other like Palpatine player that was there, and I would have probably boarded it against him or against the Vader player that was there, but I didn't get to play those guys. So, moot point. 2 copies of Power of the Dark Side. This was for sure. It also is good against any deck that might have that if you could clear everything else, if they just have the leader, you just play it and you get rid of it. But this was for sure because like one of the things about sure because he doesn't die from damage least easily, you need to be able to just take him out. Granted, I could also just play like a takedown or something like that, but this card gets you past the fact that they like to throw a bunch of upgrades on shirt. So as long as you're able to clear again their board and you play this, you're fine. One more copy of No Good to Be Dead. This also came in versus the leader heavy deck. So like the Shurits, even Sabine and Leia brought this in just to tap down their leader and keep it from being a problem for a couple of turns. 2 copies of Chimera. Never played it because again they didn't play against any kind of like super long game control decks. But this is another card that benefits from Piet. You play it out, you swing immediately, you get to name a card, you get to take the card from their hand. He doesn't take any damage because it's shielded. Beautiful. In theory. Haven't played it though. And then 1 copy of Restocks again, shore up that side deck against the blue matchup that didn't exist. Yeah, that's it. Had a fun time. If you're ever in the Connecticut area, check out Unison Games Cafe. We play on Friday evenings. Sign-ups before 7. Round 1 is paired at 7:30. So catch you again next time. This is VG Time signing out.